Hi, everybody. I'm Terry, and this is Teresa Arsenal,
Hi.
and we're with Christian Art Creations. You can go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, we have two very special guests with us today, and I'm going to introduce the first. I'll let her introduce the next guest. This is Emily Pelley, and she lives in Nova Scotia, and she started recently a publishing company called Morning Dove Press. And we just recently heard about it, and we're very excited to have a Christian publishing house that's, we're neighbors because we're on Prince Edward Island. So, Emily, would you just like to introduce yourself and Morning Dove Press? Maybe tell us what inspired, you can tell us about your family too, but what inspired a young mother to start a publishing house, for goodness sakes?
Thanks. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. So I'm born and raised in Nova Scotia. This is home. I've had the privilege to travel in many places around the world, but this is home, and this place has my heart. So I came home after university and married my husband, Travis, and had 3 little kids. And so I am a published author myself, and I really enjoyed the process of bringing together my writing and preparing it to share with the world. And when I started to look around my home province, my home region, I realized that publishing opportunities are rare, and actually a Christian publishing house does not exist.
Yeah.
Something that God started to poke at me a bit and say, wait a second, there's an opportunity here, because I know, and I know you know, many people who have a story to tell, who have no platform from which to share it.
Yes.
And stories that glorify God, stories that encourage people on their faith journey. And so that is the heart behind Morning Dove Press. I'm here to publish, or give a platform, I should say, to authors in Canada, and particularly in Atlantic Canada, who have stories to share that honor God and point people to Jesus. So we have Jim's book, which we're very excited about, The House the Captain Built. And we have a couple children's books in the works, a novel, a couple nonfiction pieces, really all different shapes and sizes of books, but all with that common heart of pointing people back to Jesus.
Great. What's the name of your book, Emily?
My name of my book is Finding Safe Harbor. Published with McGill Queen's University Press in February of 2022. It's based on my PhD research that I conducted here in Nova Scotia with services for refugee youth. It was at the time when we had so many people arriving from Syria, and a large number of young people arrived from Syria. And so I was curious, okay, what does that mean for our community services, for our schools, for churches, for faith groups of all kinds? What did that mean for them? And so I published a book about it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. So would you like to introduce our other guest, Emily?
It would be my honor, yes. So Jim Sutherland, I had the pleasure of meeting Jim this past summer, although my husband has known Jim for many years. Jim is a retired firefighter.
Way back when I used to do that for a living.
Oh, yeah, and you look like that too, right?
When I mentioned to my husband that I was been speaking to a Jim Sutherland, he said, "Rocket." So yeah, Jim is retired now, living in Summerside, Prince Edward Island, and has always enjoyed writing and has been a writer for many years. And this is his first opportunity to publish said writing. And so it has been an honor of ours to work with him. Yeah, so Jim, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. Yeah, it's not often that people have said that it's an honor to work with me, so I really do appreciate that very much.
I'm sincere, I promise.
Yes. So, as Emily stated, retired from Halifax Fire. I had done 28 and a half years there, and at age about 52 and a half, I decided that it was time for a career change. And it was interesting how I decided to do the career change. We had a conference at our house. We used to own a bed and breakfast on the Waverly Road, my wife and I, and we were hosting some of the women who were in for the conference, and one of them, just out of the blue, they were praying for us, and she said, "I see you transitioning out of your job in 6 months." Now, in my mind, I'm like, no, not going to happen. No way. But I prayed a dangerous prayer of, God, change my heart, change my mind, change my circumstances if this is you. And anyways, long story short, when I did put in for my retirement, I wasn't aware of the timelines, but when I picked my date, I counted it out. It was exactly 6 months after she had said that. So, and that's one of the ways that I knew that it was God that I was going to be retiring. I have written my whole life. I have no shortage of story ideas, no shortage of half-finished story ideas, but it's something that I had always wanted to transition into in a later career. Now, this story, my wife and I, we were at a conference down in Kansas City at the International House of Prayer back 2012, 2013. And I had a dream. And in the dream, I remembered a bit of back history. I grew up on the shores, pretty close to the shores of the Bay of Fundy, up around the Joggins Fossil Cliffs. So same thing, born and raised Nova Scotia country boy, all the good fine stuff that all goes with that. And in my dream, I was close to the shore and I was looking out and the tide was out. And in my dream, there's this island that isn't there in real life. And there was this big old massive, huge Victorian style house sitting on top of the island, which isn't there in real life. And in the dream, I started walking out to it and I was going through water that was up to my knees. And I remember thinking to myself, I have to watch my time because if I'm not heading back in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be stuck here for the next 12 hours, maybe longer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I woke up and for some strange reason, I thought to myself, that sounds like an interesting start for a story. So one thing led to another. And after 2 or 3 days in the prayer room of the International House of Prayer, I had a 22,000 word story for youth.
Wow.
Yeah. So wrote it up, edited it, didn't know what to do with it. Got back here to Nova Scotia. There was a competition, the Atlantic Writers Federation. They had every year they have a competition for unpublished authors. So I entered it in, just looking for the critique. Didn't think that it was good enough to actually win. That was another issue for me. And lo and behold, it won the category for youth fiction. So
Wow.
I was, okay, I don't know what to do with this now that I now have an award-winning children's book on my hands. So,
Yeah.
and tried several times to get it published, but nothing just seemed right. And then this summer, it was just one of those weird things where I come out with a poem. This is going to be a bit of a shameless plug for Prince Edward Island. Halifax, I always felt stifled creatively. Once I hit Prince Edward Island, creativity just exploded, and it was like poetry. It was writing. It was all kinds of things were just coming out of me that like I never had experienced before. And in the midst of that flow, I saw another friend of ours. She posted a link to Morning Dove Press on Facebook, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this one more try. And here I am.
Yep. Great.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. So I'm working with Emily with Morning Dove Press. I mean, it has been fantastic all along. It's. I have felt involved at every single step. I have felt like I've had input at every single step. I mean, it has just been a pleasure to work with her in this. So thank you for that, Emily.
Oh, that's very nice, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. And I feel like it's not even work because I get to read all of these stories all the time. And so when you read a story like Jim's, that just pulls you right in and you care about the characters right away, and you're invested. It's just so much fun. And so to go walk through this journey of refining it and getting it ready for publication, it's been very rewarding. So today was our launch of the, well, I shouldn't say the launch, sorry, pre-order. It's available for pre-order today.
Okay.
And it's just so exciting to see it like ready and
And one of the things that I've noticed working with Emily is it's been good to get another set of eyes on this. I've had a lot of beta readers over the years, although the story is geared towards the 9 to about age 12 grouping for youth. I'm yet to find an adult who I know personally who has read this who hasn't cried at the end. So adults do get something out of this. It's a very touching story. But Emily read it, and one of the ways that I know that people are going to get a lot out of this, and even more than I intentionally put into it, which is funny how those things go. Emily says to me, she's like, yes, and I love the caretaker character about how he's a representation of God and how he is there for us and he's taking care of us even whenever we don't feel that we're being taken care of. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Let's go with that.
Yeah. I know as a writer myself, that there's a lot of times I'll go back and read what I've written and go like, wow, I didn't see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I can testify personally that the very first time I met Jim, it was at a church meeting, and it was like a creative arts kind of day that we were doing. And he shared a poem that he had written like spontaneously. And I thought, I have to meet this guy because, oh my gosh, that is a talent, to spontaneously write something that was as rich as what he wrote and so eloquent off the cuff. But this was spontaneous, and I was very impressed, and I don't get impressed usually easily by writing. So I want to get your book. So
Yeah.
I'll be in line at the book launch, and maybe you can tell us about the book launch you're doing.
Okay, so I'll talk about my end, and I know Emily is working on some things in the Halifax end, so I'll leave that up to her to talk about things. We're going to be at the Summerside Library upstairs in the Key Room on December 3rd, and from 2 until 4 p.m. And I'll be there. Books can be purchased, books can be signed, and mingle, meet the author. I will do a little bit of a reading from it. Snacks, coffee, tea, all kinds of people. Yep. It makes a great stocking stuffer, and it's a good Christmas gift. And
Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So, Emily, are you going to be here for it, or are you going to be?
Sadly, I won't, but I'm going to be, there'll be some launch event in that early December. So still working out the details for that, but we will be having a book signing in January at Chapters. So it will be available through certain Chapters locations as well as Amazon. Right now it is available for pre-order on my website. So if you go to morningdovepress.ca and go to the store, you're able to pre-order it there.
Okay.
Yeah. I also would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Greg David.
That's right.
The gentleman who did the illustrations for the book. Met Greg, it was approximately 5-6 years ago. He came over from Wales, him and a few other people, and they were doing a creative arts weekend at a church that we were connected with in Halifax. And just chatting with him, we hit it off wonderfully. He was an illustrator by trade, graphic artist, and he was going through a shift in careers at that time. So when I engaged with him for this, I gave him a rough outline of what I wanted, and he came back with a couple of illustrations, and I'm looking at these, and I'm not saying a word, and my wife is saying, what do you think of these? These are great. Don't you like these? And I couldn't speak because I'm like, he read my mind. Like he was in tune with what I wanted to see. It was just phenomenal. So yeah, he's a really great illustrator. Again? He's a really great artist. Greg David, and he lives in Wales. If anyone wanted to contact him for any kind of a contract work, Emily has his contract details, and I'm sure that she'd be more than happy to pass it along. So
absolutely. Yeah. Greg David Illustrations is the name of his website.
Very good.
Yeah,
Emily, I know I'm very interested, and I know there's a lot of our authors that I'm in touch with that would be interested to know exactly how Morning Dove Press works. Like you mentioned that you're a traditional publisher. Not everybody would know what that means. So can you kind of give us a sketch of what Morning Dove Press does?
Sure. So how I've set up this publishing house is as a bit of a writer's hub. So depending on what your needs are for writing, whether you need editing work done, perhaps you're looking for a ghostwriter, book coaching, or you're looking for the full publishing gambit, Morning Dove Press is the place that you can come and get the services that you need. I think for most people, we know so many brilliant writers, but so many go unpublished. And it's not because don't have brilliant stories. It's because the whole process, the whole publishing world is quite overwhelming, and in recent years, increasingly difficult to get published in a traditional publishing house. Mm-hmm. So that's what excites me about what I can offer is a platform, but also if you're choosing to go the self-publishing route, that's great. And we can come alongside you and help you too. Maybe you need to be connected with an illustrator. We contract illustrators for you. So that's kind of my vision for what I'd love Morning Dove Press to be, is this hub. So for what a traditional publishing house, for those of you who don't know, traditional publishing usually is, there is no cost for you to publish your book. What happens is on the other end of the book, when you're selling it, you're sharing a lot more of the profits with the publisher, because all of the costs of preparing the book, editing, printing, marketing, all of that gets absorbed by the publisher. And so as a result, on the other end of that, the author usually keeps a smaller amount of the royalties. So that is one of the options I do offer, because often the cost of publishing is a barrier to even begin the process. So if I can help people overcome that barrier, then we can do that. I also offer hybrid options. So if you want to keep more of your royalties on the other end, you can pay for some of the services up front. So let's say you pay for the editor, you pay for the graphic design. We work out different publishing options, and there's no one size fits all. I have 5 contracts right now of books coming out in the next few months, and all of them look different. It really depends on what the author needs. So,
So what about copyrights? What kind of copyrights does Morning Dove Press require?
So the author keeps all copyrights. As the publisher, you're entering into a contract with me, giving me the exclusive selling rights of your book. So it will always be your work. So we also offer a hybrid publishing option. So for authors who perhaps want to keep more of their royalties on the other end and are willing to pay for the services up front, some of the services, in order to get your book ready for publication. So paying for the editing or for the graphic design, whatever it might be. The number of contracts that I have right now all look different. So I really do take each project as it comes and try to create something that matches what the author's needs are.
Okay.
That's a little bit about what I'm building here and what this business is all about. So publishing options, also writing services.
Excellent. And so I hear that you have a few other books. Would you like to briefly just introduce the books and the authors that you've got coming up, and what maybe the schedule is for that?
Yep. So they're not all public yet, but the next one coming out will be in a couple weeks after Jim's book. It's called A Pink Balloon by Aisha Usman and illustrated by Sarah Starrett, both women who live here in Halifax. It's a children's book, and it is a really beautiful story of two boys who show each other love and kindness without words. And it's really quite Aisha is an inspiring woman. Her boys are twins, both autistic and nonverbal. And her journey of raising these boys, one of the ways that she has been processing everything is writing these stories and watching her boys who may not be able to use words, but they speak to each other and they communicate. And it hurts her heart to share that with other people and other kids, to say, like, listen, maybe some kids aren't able to use their words, but they can still tell a story.
Wow.
So that one is coming out in, like I said, in December. In the new year, we have another children's book called Brown Like Me by Jess Marie. And she's a good friend of mine and has written a beautiful story about growing up with skin that might not be the same color as everyone else's. And so what does that mean? And how special you are to God because he made you exactly the way you are. So that will be coming out for Black History Month in February.
Very good.
Then we have a novel coming out, the beginning of a trilogy, which I am so excited about, by Erin Babcock, called The Urn Warder. It's set in a fantasy world with an order of monks who are themselves warriors, who have found these scrolls that mention a shepherd king named Yeshua. And what could this mean for our world? And it's this journey of these men conquering evil to bring about the truth for their world. And so it's very exciting. And so it'll be the beginning of a trilogy.
Very good. What was the name of the author again? I didn't quite catch it.
Erin Babcock.
Erin Babcock. Okay.
And so there's another children's book after that, which is called Simon Stayed. And so this book is actually written by a published author. All of my other projects are new authors, which is very exciting. But Simon Stayed by Cynthia Dontermont, and illustrated by Kate Cha. And That is a children's book as well, and just telling the story of overcoming struggles and resilience through difficult times. Yeah, so those are some of the projects coming up now. There's a few more that'll be later next year, but those will be the ones that you can expect to see in the next 4 months.
Wow. So you're busy.
Yes.
Very good. That's wonderful.
All the time. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a small world. I'm going to have to be working messenger a little later because I know Aaron and I know Cynthia. So, and I did not know that they had books coming out soon and that we were sharing publishing house. So, yes.
Very good.
No announcements yet, but those are the kind of the projects in the works. So it's very
Excellent.
Oh,
Mhm.
fantastic.
So how would a potential author get in touch with you and say someone had a book that they wanted to publish? Do they have to query first? Do they have to do a proposal? How do you usually like that to go?
So what I ask is for people to go to my website, so morningdovepress.ca,
Okay.
and there's options there to book a call with me.
Okay.
So there's no real proposal needed. It's really just an informal conversation to say, hey, here's my idea, or here's what I've written, and then we go from there to see what your needs might be, what you might be looking for from Morning Dove Press. So morningdovepress.ca, and then book a call. Or you can always send me an email at morningdovepress@gmail.com.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much, Emily and Jim. It's been great to have you here. And we will put your links down below the video.
Great.
And Jim and Emily are also new members of Christian Art Creations. We're really happy to have them on board. So great. Thank you so much for your interview. And we hope to be in touch with you again soon. Bye.
Excellent.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.